So now let's talk about 5 things you're doing to sabotage your academics and how you can fix them. I'm going to do this in order. So number 5, the probably less important but still there, is not sticking to a schedule. I see a lot of students come into my office and they basically say, I have so much to do. And when I ask them, well, okay, what's your first priority? What's your second priority? What is your schedule looking like? They say they don't have one. I want you to think of school as a job. You schedule your classes, you schedule your labs, you schedule your tutorials. All this is done for you, but there's a little bit of extra work you have to do. I want you to schedule your study time and your work time for each course every single day. Now that doesn't mean you have to work on every course every day. What it means is on Mondays, maybe you're doing your calculus homework and maybe you're working on your assignment for programming. And then on Tuesdays, you're doing physics and so on. I want you to make sure that there's enough time every single week for you to work on your courses, but also schedule in time for yourself. You are not just a student. You have so many other things going on. Stick to that schedule. Treat it like an appointment with yourself. Say on Wednesday evenings from 7 to 9, you're going to go and play a video game. I don't care what it is, but you need to make sure that you are in your schedule somewhere. It is way too easy to work into your own time, and it's way too easy to burn yourself out. Number 4, going too fast. And what I mean here is going too fast on your tests or your assignments. This is where you make those silly mistakes where you, instead of writing a plus, you write a minus, and suddenly the entire answer is wrong. I want you to drop this mindset that you have to finish every single question on the test and finish every single question on your assignment. Now, what that means, believe it or not, is that you might not get perfect. But I want you to think about something. Let's say you've rushed through your test completely. You've written something for every single question, but half of it is wrong. So suddenly you have this full test and you got 50% maximum on that test, maybe even less if your TAs are being mean to you. On the other hand, let's say there are 5 questions on the test and you say, you know what, I am not doing question number 2. I'm just not going to do it. I don't have time. I don't really understand what it's saying. I'm going to focus on the other ones. So you've done 80% of your test, but you got most of it correct. So suddenly your mark goes from the 50 or below that it was when you were randomly scribbling just to get to the end, and it's maybe a 70 or even an 80 or something higher because you have prioritized. I want you to think about that for your assignments as well. If there's an assignment question that you know is going to take you hours and hours and hours and isn't worth much and you have other stuff to do, just drop it. Prioritize what you're working on and make sure that you're not going too fast just because you need to finish. Go at the pace you need to demonstrate your knowledge. Number 3 is wasting time on things that you cannot change. When students come to see me in my office, normally they're here to ask me either about homework or about how to organize themselves for school to be an effective student. Sometimes those students are coming to me after they've already been a very ineffective student and they're sort of behind. They start talking to me about how stressed out they are, how much work they have to do, how much they don't like their instructors, and how hard the assignments are. What is the point of that? If you only have a certain amount of time in which you need to get that assignment done, don't waste an hour of it talking to each other about how hard it is. We know it's hard. We are challenging you as we give you these assignments. If you don't like a professor, that's something for constructive feedback on the course evaluations. It is not something you should all be sitting around and talking for an hour about how ineffective they are at teaching you. Instead, take that hour and focus on learning the content that you need to learn to excel in the class. If you waste your time on these things that you cannot change, then you're going to have even less time on the things you can change, which is doing well on your assignments, on your tests, and gaining the knowledge you're supposed to gain. Number 2 is an interesting one, which is not doing your homework. I have had so many students come into my office asking me questions from the lecture or from the tutorial or the lab, and I say, well, that was answered in the homework. Did you do question number 2? Because that's going to help you to understand this. And they said, oh, well, I haven't done the homework yet. If you don't do the homework that is assigned to you, even if it's not for grades, believe it or not, sometimes we're here to teach you to learn things, not just to give you grades. So if you do that review homework and you do not study it all at once, you don't leave it until before the exam, then what's going to happen is you're going to slowly understand more and more and more. And this goes back to making that schedule. If you want to make a schedule for yourself, then on Mondays you're doing your calculus homework. You made an appointment for 2 hours to get as many of those problems as you can done. And suddenly on Wednesday, when you go into that lecture, you're going to understand. You're going, yeah, I know what's going on because I've done this. I've reviewed this. I'm ready for it. On the other hand, if you leave all your homework for studying, what's going to happen is going to be really stressful. It's not going to be effective for your learning. And it's going to lead to worse results because you just don't have the time to absorb it. Do your homework. All right, ready for number one? Number one is not talking to your TAs and your professors. When I was in first year, I would not talk to my professors. I thought that they were way too busy for me. They never wanted to talk to me. I screwed myself over doing that. There was one time I wrote a test. I was completely correct, but the TA still took a mark off. I knew I was right because I talked to my friends. I broke all my rules, and I looked and I compared their answers, and I knew that I could have gotten 20 extra marks on the test, but I didn't want to go talk to the instructor because he was scary to me. I wasted so much time and so many marks, and I could have just walked into his office and said, I'm sorry, I think that this is incorrect. Can you please review it with me? And I could have gotten those marks back. I could have increased my grade. Other times, I may have not gone to my instructor and I could have increased my understanding. I could have cleared up a misunderstanding that held me back for weeks just by going and asking a question for 5 minutes. We are not scary. We promise. We're here to help you. We're not judging you. I get a lot of emails saying, I'm sorry for asking so many questions. It's what you're doing. You're a student. I am literally here. It is my job to help you. It is your TA's job to help you. If you want to think of it in a different way, you pay us enough tuition. You are the one paying for this. Why aren't you taking advantage of all the resources? Use those resources. I hope that you can use these tips to become a more effective student.